Well, you spoke about last time with Nissan and Honda merging, and then like 2 days later they confirmed it, and they want to do it by 2026. I don't understand why it's so long. I understand it's two large businesses merging or like that, but 2 years.
Oh yeah, Mitsubishi's in there too.
Yeah, Mitsubishi joining the talks, and I didn't look too far into it, but it says that their main concern was competition from Chinese EVs.
Which is funny. I think Nissan's biggest problem is they didn't really jump on the bandwagon of having any hybrid type stuff. So they didn't really give that many options. They had,
No.
maybe one or two electric things, and the rest of them were gas. But I know that Honda has done some hybrid stuff with their older Civics and different vehicles they've had. Maybe I don't know if Honda's ever done anything fully electric, have they?
It's not as far as I'm aware. Like fucking in there, you can't even see.
Yeah, you're on this side over there. This side. Yeah, it's backwards.
Yeah. And what were you asking? Sorry.
Do you remember anything that's Honda's done that's been fully electric? They probably had a Civic that was fully electric at one point.
The Insight.
The Insight was fully electric?
Wasn't it? Or was it a hybrid?
I think it was a hybrid. I don't remember. I didn't pay that much attention to them. I always called them the out of sight because you want to be seen in them. But
Yeah. I thought they were kind of. Well, I think they're kind of cool now. That's because people put K series turbos in them.
I mean, yeah, it's probably something you don't see as much anymore. It seems like all those had 400,000 miles and got thrown away. So
Right. But
Mitsubishi,
they made sure to reiterate this is not a bailout. So they're talking about a straight merger.
which is funny because you look at their. I was watching something the other day about their profits and how much they made versus how much they should be making, and it's basically they're saying that it's because of one thing, but let's be real, it's probably multiple things, and one of the main things is that financially they're not doing so well.
No.
So they haven't really made. Their CVT transmission thing was a big disaster. And, they don't sell enough 400Zs and like cars that are exciting. And those honestly probably don't make a ton of money for them anyways. So it's about butter Ultimas and all that stuff that they played into.
There's no way it makes enough money.
Yeah.
I mean, not Mazda, because Mitsubishi was joining it too, which doesn't surprise me at all.
Yeah, I think the only car they made was that cheap little hatchback thing and then the Eclipse SUV thing that they made. That's the only thing I've seen recently from them, at least.
Yeah, that Eclipse SUV pissed off a lot of people because people were like just starry-eyed waiting for the Eclipse to come back. They're like, oh, we need a four-cylinder turbo something. Give us something. Everybody else is doing all this. Like they still got the Mustang, the Challenger, the Charger, and then Honda's got their Civic Type R that's coming back, and then Mitsubishi's like, here's your SUV.
Yeah, and they got the Z car from Nissan and everything. And it'd be cool also. I don't think that emission standards could do it, but if Mazda made another rotary powered thing, I think the RX-8 was kind of its last big hurrah, unfortunately.
There's still chatter of a rotary.
I don't know how they can get it through emissions compliance, but maybe run it on propane or something.
Speaking of emissions, actually, it's funny you bring that up because I actually just wrote this down right before you got here. The EPA is fining Stellantis another $3 million-ish.
Yeah, for diesel issues.
Yeah.
Big
So
surprise.
nobody learned from VW. They just tried to hide it better.
Yeah, it's just one big diesel gate. It started with VW. They became the example, and everybody else kind of seems like they're following from that. So, again, it's in the U.S. market. They're trying to make it to where you can't make an efficient, clean diesel without lying, basically.
Right.
It's not impossible. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but doing it the way everybody's been doing it obviously isn't the right way that they want it done. They're trying to make it to where
Europe's doing it with their semi-trucks that don't have DEF anymore.
They probably have a different standard, I'm sure.
Yeah, because I have to check it again, but Bruce, that brand new Scania he got, like I said last time, there's no variable turbo, there's no DEF. I think he said there's no DPF, which I just thought was, and there's no EGR.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Then again, computer controls and stuff have gotten so good in the last 10, 15 years that I'm really surprised. And that's the other thing about it too. I'm a carburetor guy because I don't like electronics and wires and shit everywhere.
Right.
Just like pull over the side road, smack it with a screwdriver, and you can keep going. It's nice. But I've kind of, as I get older, the older fuel injection systems from the 90s and stuff are pretty simple. You can kind of eliminate all the
extra BS.
Exactly, and just use what it needs.
Because you can only run something so lean.
Yeah. With this stuff nowadays, though, it's like with computers the way they are, I think they've gotten so good that you can probably monitor it and right on that line where it's, safe but also clean.
Right.
So maybe that's part of that. Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know how they're doing with diesel. If that thing doesn't have DEF, we really didn't need. That was for clean idle stuff. That was for clean idle stuff, and it started in California, and it kind of became widespread. They're like, hey, if you fill a tank full of piss, you'll put out more water vapor than you will hydrocarbons.
Yeah, it's like the ammonia or something reacts with something or other.
Yeah, it breaks down the hydrocarbon atoms or something
I
like
didn't really
that.
do well in chemistry in high school, unfortunately, but
Neither did I. But it feels like feels like the 70s right now. Even was it what's the guy's name that went back to Dodge? You know all the Mopar shit. They put him back in charge of Ram.
yeah, I'm not sure what his
Rick?
name is. Yeah, I'm not sure what his name is, but he was the one that actually helped instead of hurt. Unfortunately,
Well, he's
guy just
responsible.
left.
Oh, Tim Kaniskis. So Tim, everybody can thank for the Hellcat and everything else, and he retired, and then he came back to Ram just recently, and that speaks volumes that Stellantis is screwing it up. And I mean, when he was it him that was introducing the Hornet and talking about that, and he said we're in the malaise era again.
Yeah, I didn't hear that, but I wouldn't be surprised.
It's just
how
it
seems.
sounds like we're just piling more emission shit onto something until something else comes up. Then all that emission shit goes away.
Yeah, so
Like
right
it
now
did,
it's
like
kind
it
of
did in the 70s.
The way I kind of see it too, like more long term, is basically the cars before all this started, and then the ones after all this started are going to be decent again. So it's like all the cars that are made between this point and this point are going to be the ones that are influx into the junkyards and everything. And then
Right.
there's going to be a time 20 years down the road where we won't see cars from this period very often.
No.
I mean, we'll see what happens. Honestly, I don't think we're quite at the point where it's feasible for every single person to have an electric car. Though, I heard that one of the people in the government or something had just recently pushed a mandate through that by 2035 there can't be any gasoline cars or anything anymore.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on that. I forgot to write it down. I think, yeah.
So that'll be interesting. We'll see if new administration kind of gets rid of that kind of stuff. But
They
they've
can.
been talking about it.
Yeah,
but,
they can.
It's one of those things. It's going to be pretty interesting to see.
Did
how
it go
the next
through
few
Congress or
years
was it an
goes.
executive order?
I'm not sure which was. I didn't look too much into it. I just heard, and one of the things I was watching in the background, I wasn't paying too much attention, that they had said
Yeah,
that
same. I heard it.
basically
and
they
I just
went
rolled
against
my
the
eyes.
people's will, which
Right.
is kind of the truth. But it's kind of how it is. Again,
I'm all for cleaner air, but come on.
yeah. I mean, if we're ready for it, and it actually logically makes sense. you know,
Like more than half the people on that freeway right now are just wasting fuel.
yeah.
They just buy cars because they want a car. They don't know what kind of car they have. They are like, oh, it looks kind of nice, or it gives me the equipment I want. Throw those people in EVs.
I mean, and that's how do you decipher those people from the actual enthusiasts? So,
Right. Well, the cost of EV came down. Like we were talking about the other day with the Dodge EV. we'll get into again, but they're starting for the lowest model around 60 something thousand.
Yeah, it's like 59, whatever, but they don't make base
And
models, let's be honest.
what's the price of a Model 3 now?
Yeah,
30,
exactly.
30 to 50, something like that. It was starting
Yeah.
with the lowest trim absolute ever.
And one of the
So
guys,
it's affordable now.
Yeah, one of the guys that watched Uncle Tony touched on that a little bit in one of his recent videos. It was really good about how the fastest version does like
An 11.8.
1180s, and the slowest Model 3 that you can buy is like 0.3 of a second slower.
Yeah.
And it's half the price almost.
Oh, the Dodge EV, I think it was like 11.3, and then the Tesla was 11.8, something like
It's half the
that.
price of the base model.
Exactly.
Yep.
And that's funny you bring up Uncle Tony, because he was talking in 2024 until 2025. I don't even understand my note.
Yeah, I know how that feels.
Yeah, 2024 to 2025. I'm gonna have to refresh myself on what he was talking about.
Oh, he was talking about how you couldn't buy if you want to buy on their website, on Dodge's website, there's
NA.
a 2024
Yeah,
Dodge Charger, and it's the new Charger, but you won't get one until 2025, and it won't be built until 2025 basically,
Yeah.
but as a 2024 model. So it's kind of backwards from
I
how
was
they
actually
usually
looking
do it.
at their website today, and I was looking at every single truck and car was it truck and car? Yeah, every truck. I was looking at the Ram site. Every single truck, no matter what one you look at, is all Hurricane. For 2025, there's no V8.
Yeah. I think on the heavy duty trucks they're supposed to keep the 6.4 around a little longer, but
I didn't look at heavy duty. I just looked at every trim
yeah,
model
on
of
the,
the
on
Ram
the
I could.
1500 Rams, yeah, you can only get the Hurricane. It's the new 5.7 Hemi variant,
I just shook my head. I
basically.
mean, what else is there to do?
So, and that's, again, for most people that don't tow and they don't, do a whole lot, that might be okay. If you get through the teething issues that engine probably is going through. But again, it's only a 3-liter.
Well, it's going to be a
straight
solid
six.
year of enthusiasts blowing them up.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too, because I guarantee you they're way down tuned from the factory. They have to be able
Yeah.
to survive. So,
And like I said, with the offset rods, I don't think they're going to be revving high into the rev range anytime soon.
it's kind of a shame because it's a 3-liter. I'm sure it would love to rev depending on
If they designed it for it, but they
Unless
designed it as
it's-
a workhorse, not a
unless
performance.
it's like a slant 6 where it's got a gigantic rod and a small piston, so it's made to be a tractor. You
Yeah.
know? And those have their own issues. Cylinder head doesn't.
I think it was
float, but-
designed after diesel engine, and
Yeah.
they're like, "Hey, let's just get a Cummins and
they-
downscale it."
I mean, it's probably European design though, honestly.
Yeah.
So, and Europeans know light duty diesel pretty well. That's what that eco diesel is from a European company. Mm-hmm. And of course, those didn't do a whole lot well. They did like 3 generations of them, and the first was the worst. Second wasn't as quite as bad, but still bad. And the third is the best apparently, but they still have problems. All the CP3 or whatever fuel pumps they had were recalled. Like my brother has a turbo diesel Gladiator, and he had to take it in because they had to put a new fuel pump in it because apparently some of them were manufactured wrong and had metal shavings in them, which could distribute
cool.
through all the fuel system and destroy everything. So that's cool.
Like early model, early '90s Chrysler Mitsubishi heads that had a bunch of casting flash all over it.
Yeah. No, Chrysler's been known to have terrible casting flash issues for a long time. Core shift and everything else in the 70s were
Right.
the worst. But,
All these drag marks on the lobes of your cams and the.
Yeah, oh, dude. Yeah. But so, it's one of those things. Again, you can't really build a simple combustion engine anymore without getting in trouble for it. Unless you completely.
Unless
plague
you're
it with all
cheating,
kinds
in
of-
which case you get in
Unless you're
trouble
cheating,
for
then you
it.
get in trouble for it. Yeah.
Right.
So, I don't know, man. It'll be interesting to see.
Cummins can't write algorithms without billion-dollar fines.
Yeah.
VW screwed up hardcore, and then Stellantis doesn't learn from those mistakes. And this isn't the first fine they had either. There was another $300 million fine that they had to deal with.
And the interesting thing, I wonder if there's any difference between the cars, because those vans are probably it's like a Ford Transit, but it's the Chrysler version, right?
The Sprint,
The Sprinter vans, or
Yeah.
whatever that is, yep. Which used to be also Mercedes had the same type of thing, but different.
That was a total European thing. When I was over in England for a
So-
little bit, it was just Transits and
Yeah,
Mercedes,
exactly.
and there's a Dodge equivalent
Like
ones.
Dodge Tradesmans or whatever they're
Yeah,
called.
something like that.
So I'm
They're
wondering-
everywhere.
I'm wondering if there's a difference between the European variant and the American variant when it comes to the emissions controls, or if it's just the tune.
There always has been. I mean, like, explain my 240 that I was lucky enough to get a SR swap in back in like the early 2000s before they got popular. They all had those KAs,
Yeah.
the 24, like
Yeah,
the
single
single
cam
and
thing.
the dual cams. Like, I mean, America screws anything up. So it would have been more efficient to get a smaller displacement turbo SR and just tune it properly accordingly, but they didn't.
But that's the thing though, is I wonder if their emissions controls were the same for the European market and they were not compliant because all they did was change the tune for when it was taking emissions, and then it cheated when it wasn't on the
The EU
Volkswagen
has way
thing.
stricter emission standards.
Yeah.
So I don't understand
I think
what-
they might not be as strict, but they might be different, like
Right.
compared to like California standards, which is the strictest that we have. Mm-hmm. Except for when it comes to older vehicles, because for whatever reason, like 74 and older doesn't have to do emissions or something like that. But
In California.
Yeah, but here it's 67 and newer, so it's like
Yeah. I never understood that when I moved here because
Yeah.
she was talking about her 69 and how it had to get emissions tested. And she had to keep going through emissions
that's
like
only in
5-6
Maricopa
times.
County here, but
Yeah, that's only in this county mostly. There's a couple others.
yeah.
But I never understood that either with California, 'cause California's so strict, but they're like 75 and below is emissions exempt, and here it's 66 and below.
Right.
So I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense. Well, we're also federal emissions; those are state emissions. But
Well, I
that's
think
pro
it's probably
car.
because
That's
it's
the
more-
one pro car they've ever done.
It's probably stricter than federal otherwise.
Yeah, super
You
strict.
you literally, everything is like 49 state legal when it comes to any type of modification that you do. And that one state's always California.
Yeah.
Change
And
the
growing
freaking-
up there, I got plenty of ref tickets.
And you literally have to have a little sticker that comes with it. This is 50 state legal, and you
Yeah.
have to slap it on there so they can make sure to see that.
We back in the day, we used to make them.
Yeah.
We started printing them on computers and putting them on tags and stuff, and then people just started building their cars internally and then hiding shit. One guy actually had a turbo single cam, but he ran the piping through the factory air box, and the factory air hose just made the diameter smaller.
Wow.
Worked.
Hey.
He ran the turbo
There's something to be
underneath the
said
oil
too. I like the idea about that, not for cheating emissions or anything like that, but just for opening the hood, being like, yeah, man. You know,
Yeah, it's I love
there you go.
sleepers.
That's why we have trust issues.
Right. I like underdogs and sleepers.
Yeah.
Like there was that kid that did a high school or a college film project. It's on YouTube, and I think it's just called Sleepers. And it's like his car was the Buick Regal Supercharged, the one from the '90s, the late '90s. And he's walking like a Mustang. I think it was a 3-valve at the time, or it might have been a New Edge. It was yellow, I think. And they're filming from inside the Mustang, and he's just pulling away, and he's like, and you can hear the driver like, "How is that
Whining away.
boat beating me?"
Yeah. Those things are great, man. I love that 3.8 V6 in those cars.
There's still plenty of aftermarket,
supercharged
too.
or nay. They were some long-lived freaking motors, man.
Well, remember last time we were at the drag strip, there was a couple GTPs running.
Yeah, it's so cool to still see them around.
That fucking, I hate the sound.
Yeah.
Those V6s sound so terrible, but when you hear it coming, you hear the whine, you're like, I know what that is.
Yeah, and I think it's still loosely kind of what the Buick Regal and stuff had in them with the turbos on them and stuff, you know.
That's close as you're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, and those are rear-wheel drive, which is cooler in my opinion too, but, you know, those little V6s, yeah, they don't really make a great noise out the tailpipe really, but they definitely, they're definitely cool.
Even the GTR tried. No. What did the Grand Nationals, did those have 4.3s or were they smaller?
Grand Nationals are 3/8.
Oh, they're 3/8. Okay.
Yeah, the 4.3 was like in the Cyclone and the Typhoon.
Yeah,
that was the only
engines,
like
the V6s.
performance really version of that I know of at least.
Cyclones are so dope.
Yeah,
Love
for
Cyclones.
all-wheel drive.
The Charger. Gotta fix this shit again. It's just bugging the hell out of me. I gotta find a happy place for this
Grabbing that
stupid
chest
thing.
hair of yours.
Huh?
Grabbing that chest hair probably.
Yeah, no. I wish.
Yeah.
It would be lower.
Way up to your neck.
Yeah. I just don't want to be rubbing it because I know I'm going to be able to hear it.
Yeah, right on that beard.
Right. It's going to sound like I'm speaking through Velcro the whole time.
Perfect.
It's like
Kinda
sitting
works.
down a certain way. It just looks like you have a boner, but you don't.
Yeah. We're still working the bugs out. It's only our second deal. So.
Right. Rich Rebuilds was talking about that EV charger the other day, and he made a point that I caught as well when I was watching the Demonologies version, is when he was talking to the rep that was standing there, he was talking about the EDMs, the electronic drive motors and all that stuff. And the rep reaffirmed that the batteries, the EDMs, everything was the same model to model. And he said there's going to be a stage 1 and stage 2. I'm like, okay, so they're doing the Tesla thing. It's software restricted. So is it really worth that much money changing that?
That's the thing. You buy the EV version, and it's a base model, and it's $10,000-$15,000 less than the cool Scat Pack, whatever other name they slap on it to try to sell it. But all it is a software update, and you're spending tens of thousands of dollars potentially.
I remember looking at a Tesla. Somebody was like hitting options or something like that for their Tesla, and they wanted to get more power out of it. I think it was the Model S or maybe one below, and they can unlock it, and it was just flat out a $20,000 fee. It's like, yeah, let me just pull that $20,000 out of nowhere and pay for it.
And that's the thing about it. And again, Uncle Tony touched on this as well. You know, it's like back in the day when you paid that much money for the better vehicle, you got a bigger motor, you got bigger brakes, you got bigger this, and it actually was more substantial.
Yeah.
There was a special deal. Now, and this is kind of the whole mentality behind the way the world is going, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy about it.
Right.
You pay for, you know, literally just a right to have that electronic, you know, message that goes to the thing you already have. It's just crazy. You know, you literally are paying for the rights to make the power the thing is designed to make. It's so stupid.
Well, I can bring one thing up. I don't know if you know about it or not, but it'll show you exactly the way they were trying to go. I don't think they're going to try anymore. You know what BMW did like a year ago?
Oh, it's a subscription deal. Yeah.
Yeah, for seat heaters.
Yep. Now imagine that too. You know, and that's again, those cars are nice. This is the way I believe about any of those European luxury cars. Those cars are great if you lease them.
Yeah.
Give them back before they start having problems. Get another one. You're literally renting it.
They're already pushing leases for the EV charger.
That's, first of all, they're too expensive to buy, and why the hell would you want to buy it anyways? Because by the time it's paid off, you're going to have all kinds of issues potentially. You know, it's just, you want to look cool. That's the whole reason you buy something like that generally. Right. So you just pay to look cool, and then by the time that it's not cool anymore because it's 3 years old, you get the next cool thing, and the whole time you're just paying money. You know.
That's a good way to make money for them.
I mean,
but I think it was like
they play along with
5,600
that.
do it signing. It was like $6 something a month.
Yeah, can you imagine paying $600 and something a month to rent something and
No.
just give it back after 3 years?
I'm about to with that truck.
You know, one of our friends was he brought his dad's Mach-E over so I could check it out the other day, and he's been telling me about how he sold on the EV thing now because of the performance of it. It's understandable; they have instant torque and everything, and it
Yeah, it's
can
just
be.
there as long as it's charged.
But you know, again, to me, it's just like doesn't really have much personality
No, it
compared to like
doesn't.
an internal combustion engine, especially a rowdy one. But he was looking at the EV Hummers and talking about, man, I could really get one of these. That could be a lease. It's only $800 a month for 3 years, and then you give it back.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Or you can buy it out.
I mean, for a business standpoint, if you're using it as a business vehicle, so you're writing it off,
that makes sense.
you know, that's not so bad. But to me, I'd still prefer to own it after all that payment versus having to give it back and start over.
Yeah, they give you a buyout option at the end
know.
if you want it or not.
But again, you have to keep in mind like depreciation and all those other things that go into factor too, you know, because everything you buy nowadays, it's very rare that you buy something and it actually retains its value. Generally, it takes a big old dip, and
And I'm sure that
lucky
lease
in
was
20
for,
years if it's worth
I'm
what
sure
you
that
paid.
lease was for the bottom of the range EV charger too.
yeah.
So if after 3 years of 5,600 down and 611 a month, how much is it going to be? How much is it out the door? It's going to be over 70 out the door for the base model. It starts at like 64 or something.
I mean, there are probably going to be rebates and all kinds of things. The government's giving you incentives to do it.
For now,
But,
I don't know if they ended all EV incentives or everybody just expired because they used them all up.
I think it also depends on if they're built here versus somewhere else. All the other stuff too. It's going to be interesting again to see how it works out, but because the new administration coming in wants to kind of change all that stuff, so we'll see if it's continued to be forced or not. You know, it's going to be a constant fight as it always is.
Well, I know Trump won't want that because it's not how business works in his eyes, but
I mean,
he wants the competition to happen because he wants people spending money.
and that's a lot of it too. You know, keep money in people's pockets and give them a choice. You know, I believe in that aspect especially.
Right.
You know,
That was all
take my money
according
and
to-
make me spend it over there.
Yeah, exactly. And that was all according to Uncle Tony from his rant, and I can tell he was upset, like you were upset. I was like, oh wow, I'm talking to Adam, but he's somebody else.
And that's the thing about it, you know. I watched Uncle Tony for years. I actually used to know him on at a Mopar forum before he was Uncle Tony on YouTube. He used to sell parts on FurryBodiesOnly.com, which is the page I've been on since like 2007, which is crazy.
believe
It'll be
you.
20 years pretty soon. Obviously,
I miss forums.
I was a kid back then, you know.
Yeah.
And that's where I learned a lot of my stuff and talked to a lot of people that were really, really good people. But that's pretty much the consensus of these people that have kind of been the underdogs for the big three for a long time. We had to fight to, you know, make a name for ourselves because it was kind of a joke in the 70s and 80s. They didn't really have a whole, you know, mid 70s to early 80s. They didn't really
Right.
have a whole lot of cool stuff out, and they had to take the old stuff and make it something. So, and for them now to take that name and slap it on something else, so we know is a joke.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of a like, you know, slap in the face almost to a lot of the
I think the
Mopar guys.
I'm so happy the Hornet is still just not being talked about because nobody cares.
You'd be surprised how many freaking ads I get on that thing talking about, oh, this is how much torque it makes and this is how cool it is. And right away it's like, who is this for?
Yeah,
like
keep
that
the
doesn't-
ridiculous shit up that you were doing for the past few years, and shoehorn a freaking 392 in it. Like then we'll care.
I mean, to me, it's just like you know, they call it the Hornet, but to me, it's may as well be the modern day Gremlin or something. You know, back
Right.
then they weren't cool. Now they're cool for other
Yeah.
reasons. But back then, when you had a Gremlin, when it was like a newer car still,
Oh, bless your
that
heart.
was not a good thing.
Yeah.
yeah.
You can see it pulling your neighbor's driveway.
You were
like,
the
oh,
dork in
he's
school
one of those
driving a
guys.
Gremlin, you know.
Yeah, he listens to Scorpions.
Yeah, you park next to the guy with the Pacer, and you guys are buddies just because of the, you know, your cars.
Because that was Tony's like rant about. He was just so pissed off. He's like, he was talking about our tribe and everything, and I totally understood what he was saying and how he was just irritated. And what was that? The Fratzog is the symbol they brought back. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's cool that they brought that back, but why did they always have to bring back the nostalgic shit for stupid shit?
Well, that's a problem too. And I appreciated that logo because it was on all my old cars when I was still in high school and stuff. So, you know, I used to draw them and, you know, sit there and doodle in class when I wasn't paying attention, which I probably should have been now I'm looking back. But
Yeah, same.
back
My
then it actually
transcripts
meant
had a lot of
something.
Fs.
Now if you see a kid doodling it, you're like, do you like electric cars, huh? You know, you
Right.
have to automatically assume he's probably not drawing the old stuff,
Yeah.
you know. But yeah, it's interesting. You know, it's cool that, and this is how I felt a long time about this stuff too. Like you like something before it's really like kind of popular thing, and then it becomes popular, but for the wrong reasons, and it kind of ruins it for you.
Yeah.
So let's hope that this is just kind of a blip and it doesn't really manifest into anything. But
Yeah, and I looked up a little more specs since the last time we talked about it. You were talking about the size of the EV charger, and then it got reconfirmed on some videos, and people were saying, yeah, the wheelbase is longer. They reaffirmed what you said. I think it was like 120 something inches. I don't know anything else that has 120 inches off the top of my head.
It's pretty big.
Yeah, it's pretty long.
I think it's pretty wide too, if I remember.
Yeah, and
right,
I saw
pretty
more.
tall.
I
Just
saw
a big
more
car.
videos. I wanted to watch more videos of people get in and out of it just for size comparison. Yeah, it's pretty large. It might as well be a light duty pickup at this point. But I looked at the
weighs
weight.
as much as one, yeah.
Do you want to take a guess, or do you know it? Considering
It's probably at least like a 90s full size truck weight, like one that because back then they didn't have all the crazy options they have now. They were made for truck stuff, so probably 5,000 pounds or something.
More.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Those batteries are heavy.
Yeah, the batteries are heavy and everything else is heavy, but you limit it to 670 horsepower. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Plaid has 1,000.
Yeah, I mean, and with those things, they're like, oh, don't look at the horsepower; it's the torque. You're talking about the torque here.
But the horsepower carries it further.
Yeah, it's how much of the wall you take with you.
It's 5,700 and something pounds, and the current one I think is 4,600, something like that. Mm-hmm. So it's another 1,000 pounds, and you're keeping it with less horsepower than the Hellcat has. Mm-hmm. And a stock Hellcat can get spanked, not really hard, but it can get beat by a full bolt-on tune NA 5-liter Coyote.
Yeah.
So you're bringing this EV charger, and the advertisements are adorable. They say the most powerful muscle car in the world or something like that. I just saw an advertisement. I don't know if it was green muscle car or it was muscle car, but they're advertising it. I'm like, no, it's not. When you can get slapped by some crazy Californian in their Model 3.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, like Uncle Tony said, taking grandma's Model 3 out and freaking spanking new Scat Pack, freaking this and that, Daytona Charger, Banshee, whatever they call it.
Daytona Charger, Banshee, whatever. And I'm sure, I think he touched on it. I don't remember the whole video, but he did touch on the Fratzog, and I think he was a little pissed off about it, which is understandable. And TK's Garage has a lot to say. Do you follow him?
I haven't followed him, no.
He's more a new age kind of Mopar guy. Older, I think he's prior Air Force, because one of his videos he's driving on Nellis Air Force Base.
Cool.
But they're saying that they're going to keep the Durango with the Hellcat engine until 2026. That the Hellcat engine should be staying around. There's rumors of special trucks happening in January, and it's probably because of Tim Kaniskis. And people are recognizing, Dodge is recognizing the success of the Ford RCSBs, the radial cab short beds, with the 5 liters that are beating cars they should not with just boost, like Midnight Performance, 1 cash days.
Yeah, that's super cool. I love seeing those trucks running around. It's like a little
doing roll races against like
the old little red Express Dodges from the 70s.
Yeah, and they're beating cars they shouldn't from a roll, let alone a dig. And there's rumors that there's going to be regular cab short beds with 392s and Hellcat engines in them. So that would be sweet. I
mean, that's something they haven't done. And nowadays too, obviously they stopped making the TRX because they don't have Hellcat engines in those anymore. Now they released the RHO, which is the turbo 6-cylinder.
I looked at it today.
And
I was like, oh, look, the performance one's got to have an option. Nope.
Yeah. So, it's hopefully, we'll see what happens again. I don't know. It's been, the Hemi came out a little more than 20 years ago, the 3rd gen Hemi. So, maybe it's time for a bit of a refresh or something. Give it direct injection. Give it some more modern accoutrements.
Just don't limit it to 6 cylinders.
Yeah. Give us a V8 option. That would be, again, let us decide.
I can't imagine how all that's going to sell.
I don't know. And again, like you said, apparently direct injection engines produce more emissions, which makes sense. Because as you said that, I'm watching all these little Kias and Hyundais floor it past me, and a little puff of black smoke comes out when they do it.
Yeah. There's no room for atomization, really. It's just into the combustion event. There's no pre-charge.
You're not warming it up or anything.
No, it's not mixing with the air and then going through the valve or anything like that. It's just right into the combustion event.
Of course, a lot of those now have an injector in the intake also, so the valves don't get all nasty with carbon deposits.
That's like my S550. That was dual injection. It was multi-point and direct. And the direct is just for fuel economy, really, and not for performance. Some people are above, maybe around when you get around 750, 800 horsepower, people are starting to actually delete the direct injection.
Third injector or whatever.
Yeah. They're actually deleting them because some guys that have done over 1,000 have started melting them.
Oh yeah, that makes
So
sense.
yeah,
Really
they've had
hot,
to take them out.
really hot combustion temperatures.
So they're just doing DI delete kits and all that stuff.
Interesting.
They're apparently cutting the MSRPs by 35% at RAM as well.
So that
I
makes
think
you
that's Tim doing his thing.
that makes you go. Are they being greedy? Do they have that much to be able to make on those things?
Well, this is actually a perfect segue, so thank you. The dealer markups that they've been doing for the last few years
Yeah.
are criminal.
Yeah, I know
I
that.
don't know who it was. I saw a related video. I clicked on it, and he's like, "Let's see if I get kicked out today." And he walks into a Dodge dealer, and he's looking at every single vehicle, and the smallest markup was like $5,000, just a dealer markup. And I can't get too mad because the dealer I know is hurting, and that's the only way they're able to make any money.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was all leftovers from COVID because for whatever reason at that time we thought everything was going to tank and everything started booming. So they had models that were out that were kind of special, and they had limited amounts of them because of the chip shortage and all the other things that were going on. So they were able to mark those things up $20,000, $30,000 in some cases, even more than that for some really special models. And they're still trying to do the same thing. They're trying to control the supply so that the demand stays up, but the demand isn't there anymore. The excitement is done, and I think people already done spent their money.
Right.
You know.
And nobody wants to spend their money now because, I mean, just like how we've been feeling in the trucking industry, nobody wants to put their money up until after January 20th.
Yeah.
Because it's been so screwed up.
Yeah, I have a Jeep I need to kind of fix and get listed for sale around tax time.
Yeah, I got a truck I got to turn back into the bank.
Good times.
Yeah. Yeah, I give up. I don't know where it is. But yeah, he walked into a dealer and he was looking at like a TRX, and it was already $100-something thousand, and it had a $20,000 markup on it. Just a dealer markup. No special options, no special anything. The dealer just says we want $20,000 more.
Question is that the bargaining space that you have? Is bargaining space now that you pay MSRP? Like we'll get rid of that $20,000 thing. You're getting a good deal. Just know that. It's like I'm paying the price it's supposed to be. What do you
That
mean?
happened to Herman, who's at Demonology. He bought his. I'm trying to remember the story. He talked about it. He got a 392 for a while because somebody convinced him just to grab one, and then he finally went and found a Hellcat, and the dealers. He found one that he wanted, and he went to the dealer in the conversation. The salesman got up and went and talked to the owner and says, like, "We'll sell you this. They'll sell this to you right now, but we're going to be putting down a $10,000 tint package on the price." And then his buddy called him up when he was sitting there and says, "Hey, we got one over here. Come and get it." And he just left him. So
You say $10,000 tint deal?
tint package, yeah. They're going to mark it up $10,000 with a tint package.
If they were trying to offer me a $10,000 tint package, you better tint me and my whole family's cars and the rest of my cars for 10 years.
And the house.
And I have a lot of cars in 10 years.
Yeah. That was just their way of doing
Now here in
markup.
Arizona, yeah, do the house too while you're at it.
That's because the
If I had a
demand.
house.
I think there might have been a demand that they were trying to extort, because everybody wanted the Hellcat that was coming out and all that, and they happen to have one. And they're like, "Well, yeah, we'll let it go to you, but we're charging you $10,000."
That's the thing about it, the balls on these guys, man. If you go to a dealership and they literally sat down and told me that, I literally would have looked at them and been like, "What'd you just say?
Yeah.
Are you?"
And dealers are.
Where do you get this stuff
Dealers
from?
are constantly hurting if they can't move their inventory. All those vehicles on the lot.
The ones that pull stuff like that deserve it, man.
Yeah, all the vehicles on the lot are financed. Like those vehicles sitting on the lot, they are paying a note on every month until they sell it. So it's costing them money for them to sit there, and he wants to jack it up.
Yeah, that's
like
crazy.
a $20,000 markup on a TRX, making it 180 before it's out the door. Go
Right.
fuck yourself.
That's just crazy stuff, man. I guess, the crazy thing about it too is like, some of the people you see driving Hellcats, you're just like, how did that guy, first of all, pay what those cars even cost in the first place? Like, where do these guys get the money to do this kind of stuff?
Where do
'Cause
they
you
get
know
the
for a fact,
prices?
it's just crazy. Like, how many people are in debt these days?
Right.
I know I've got debt.
How much was
Not a car debt.
I remember how much was the Lightning when it came out? Because that was one of our popular shorts, was talking about the Lightning engines, how they weren't forged and people were pissed off. And
Oh, yeah.
some people remember that. Let's see, what's the MSRP?
That was the 2-valve Triton, I think, too, right? The 5.4 or whatever.
Yeah, it was a Triton 5.4.
I think the 3-valve was even worse, honestly. Thankfully, I don't think they put blowers on those ones.
Haggerty. Original MSRP of an 03 Lightning was $33,000.
What's that adjusted for 2024
I was
monies?
exactly going to do that.
It's probably like 45K or something, 50K.
$56,500,
Yeah, that's crazy.
which is still
That's actually a bargain today.
yeah.
Honestly,
And they
which
also
is
had a
sad
lot
to
less.
say.
They had a lot less tech in them, but I mean, we can round it up to 60 and stay. It's still a bargain.
Yeah, if
So
you were to build a
you're gonna
truck
charge
just
me a
like,
TRX for 180? Eat
yeah.
a bag of dicks.
The thing is, they don't make any base, freaking like no frills, roll up window type situations. I don't think they did in the F-150 Lightnings or
It
the,
was just a F-150.
yeah, you know, and if you were to build a truck like that, even with all the options in 2003, today, it would literally be a base truck.
Because the Cobra was around the same price.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about it too, is like, you know, back in the day, trucks were made for truck things. They were made to do work.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't really passenger princesses like they are so much now.
Everything would fall apart around it,
You know.
but it would keep going.
And it was designed to be able to be used on the farm or used in traffic. Nowadays, I have a hard time seeing somebody with a TRX actually using it for truck things.
In 10 years.
And, well, longevity-wise, I mean, it's not really probably made for that, honestly.
Yeah. I want to see all this shit right now in 10 years or 20. I want to see how this stuff ages.
And that's the thing about it, man. We know how electronics age in general. You know, look at just a phone from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You know,
Horrible. I still have a flip phone somewhere in a box that was from like 2004,
like a
2005.
Razor or something.
Yeah. No, it wasn't even a Razor. It was pre that. It says Virgin Mobile on it.
Cool.
It was a flip phone. I still got it somewhere because it has photos on it that I'll probably never able to get off.
Like those people you see back in school, like texting under their desk with the T9 or
Yeah.
whatever.
And you can just count the button strokes.
They're literally just looking at you having a conversation, texting under their desk.
Well,
Pretty
see, in
much
my
hard to do
Cobra,
that
it was the
nowadays.
shit because I had a 6-disc changer in the dash.
Yeah,
And then I
that's-
just flipped down my sun visor and I had my organizer.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
Yep. Those were the days, I think, man. I feel like an old man saying that. Of
That's
course,
it's inevitable. Like
know,
I keep
it's
seeing the patterns.
having physical media in general. I think that's like just like the tune thing with the Daytona Charger freaking Banshee thing. Is that we're used to the things where you actually have physical media, where you literally pay $60 for a video game for the coolest game that just came out, and you physically
Well,
have
kids
it.
not only understand
know?
don't understand the struggles of getting a cartridge to work by blowing in it.
Yeah.
They don't understand like how important it was to get memory cards. But that card was this big, the size of a flip phone, and it held 16 megabytes.
Right.
Now the card inside that very camera is this little tiny micro SD and holds 250 gigs.
Smaller than your thumbnail.
Yeah, it holds 250 gigs.
And they have them that probably go up to a terabyte and more nowadays.
And that's 20 years.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about it. That's what I'm saying when it comes down to technology. Why aren't we at the point where we don't need all these emissions controls choking things down? Like you said with the diesels in Europe and stuff. We have technology that's that good. Why are we doing these things to make the internal combustion engine extinct basically nowadays? Like to make one is almost impossible, you know?
Right.
So it's just interesting, I guess, where
Well, you
they're
can
focusing their
visualize
energy.
it's an old 1960s V8, just
Yeah.
how simplistic it was, and it was what came out the ass is what came out the ass.
Yep, they had downdraft tubes. You didn't have PCV valves.
Yep.
you
And
know,
then they had EGRs and whatnot, and they started introducing that in the 70s or late 60s.
which actually, you know, EGR is not really a great thing for performance, but a PCV system is actually a good thing.
Yeah.
You know, so and again, it's just trying to make the thing as efficient as possible, and that's the big thing, efficiency, because efficiency means clean generally.
Right.
You know,
Or like the overabundance of charcoal canisters in the 90s.
I mean, that's when that's back when the gas still didn't evaporate overnight and shit like it does now.
Correct.
You know, so.
And now in the newer Mustangs with their twin throttle bodies, they have carbon trapped in the intakes. For the carbon that leaks out through the throttle bodies when the vehicle is off, it's supposed to catch that.
Wow.
Yeah, they look like little honeycomb things, and they're shoved in the intake. So the first thing people were doing when they got the new 24 Mustangs
Deleting
was
those
cutting them
immediately.
out.
Yeah.
On camera, which is real smart, at the peak of EPA enforcement.
Yeah, that's probably a bad thing to do.
And that's probably why they went to twin throttle bodies, because they couldn't pull enough air through one intake.
That's crazy. I mean, again, that's the thing, at least to me, that's what makes sense. And I'm not anybody that would be in charge or anything like that, because I'm kind of one of those guys that I'd rather be a consumer and have choices and be able to do things.
I just
and
want to
enjoy
drive
my
something
life.
and make it my own and be left alone.
Yeah, as long as you're not hurting your neighbor or doing anything stupid,
Right.
you know, which, you know, there's a time and place to do certain things, obviously, you know, in Mexico and whatever else. But
Well, there's also this approach from the EPA going after enthusiasts for the last few years and ruining people's lives, thinking like this small minority of car owners is the problem.
right.
When we pride ourselves on running more efficiently,
Right.
tuning more efficiently, and we're the biggest consumers of E85.
Right. Well, and that's the thing about it too. It's just, you know, trying to focus on the minority versus the majority of the problem, and trying to make examples of people that are not the ones that you should be really focusing on. At least that's from what I've seen too. You know, and it's a shame, but it's the way it has to be, unfortunately, for them. So, you know,
I just want V8s back.
I honestly, you know, there's nothing like the sound of a V8, and that comes from the most American, you know, born and raised here kind of thing, and that's kind of
Right.
like part of our deal, you know. But and no matter how you try to synthesize it, it's still going to sound like Gran Turismo. So
Right.
that's you know, I'm talking the old ones, maybe not the new ones. I haven't played Gran Turismo since
PlayStation
the
1.
fourth one. Yeah.
Yeah, she has the new one. She loves that.
Yep. It's kind of crazy. I think I remember playing. I think I seen somebody playing the fifth one, and I'm like, oh, these are all the same cars as the last two.
Right.
You guys gonna come out with some new
The
stuff.
cars that came with the game just got smaller, and they started doing car packs.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think it was
gotta pay
because of
extra for 'em.
licensing.
Yeah.
Because when you introduce a game like that with 300 cars, that's 300 bits of your sale price that has to go out to all these
Which is so dumb
manufacturers.
because, you know,
So
to
I
me,
think they started doing car packs. Like, well, they can buy these cars, and we'll give them a piece of that.
and to me, it's like, if I was a car manufacturer, I'd want these guys to have the rights to be able to use this, because I want the kids to be able to race the cars and get excited about them, and then they'll show up to my dealership and buy those cars that they played as
Right.
kids.
But of course, when you include 300 cars into a game, people on average only own like 50 of them.
Yeah, well, and it's a shame that they have to be greedy like that. You know, they have to, any of the licensing, any of that. I understand if you're going to sell a T-shirt with the logo on it or something like that, but why don't you loosen up and let that stuff get out into the masses, and then when the kids see it and get all excited about it, they show up to your dealership in 10, 15 years when they have their own money and they buy one of your cars.
Exactly.
You know?
Like I was talking to this younger guy. He's 22, and I had to go get a new phone because mine just took a crap. And I was talking to him late. It was the 23rd, and I was talking to him, and we were just talking cars while we're waiting for this thing to recover. And I mentioned that I had an '03 Cobra at the time. He's like, "You had a Terminator?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "That's my dream car." I'm like, "It was mine too." And he's like, "What'd you do?" I'm like, "I sold it for like 15 grand." He just stared at me, and he's like, "How's that feel?" I'm like, "I don't want to talk about it."
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
But he's like, it's things like that. Like that guy is probably going to work his ass off, and he's going to get one. Mm-hmm. It's going to be like 40, 50 grand by the time he does.
And he does bolt-on mods, and a Coyote's still gonna spank him.
Yeah. But he's got a Terminator.
It's cool. I love those cars too. I had a 2-valve at one point. It was electric green, and they're fun little cars. It was slow as hell, but
Yeah, they're just fun. They sound the best, but that's about it.
that's about it.
That
yeah.
2-valve overhead cam sound for some reason just sounds really good.
They do sound
They're
good.
just slow as dog shit.
Yeah. They're reliable too. Those engines, same ones they put in Crown Vics that freaking run all over the place for lots of miles, man.
100,000 idle hours.
Easily. Yeah. It's crazy. I actually had a lot of fun with my 3-valve Mustang too, you know, those being as slow as they were compared to the Coyote, but I thought it was respectable for what it was. It got 20 miles to the gallon. I paid $6,000 for it back in 2017, I think.
Well, Ford's
And,
always giving you just bargain horsepower.
I mean, that was, the car had 150K on it, and I drove it for a couple of years, and it was a stick, of course.
Of course.
And I think it was Windvale Blue we talked about last time. And it was a great little car, man.
What transmission came in those?
TR 3650, I think.
Oh, 3650.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's what came in like the 99 Cobra that my buddy had.
And that's what they changed over, instead of having the shifter right, the transmission had a linkage instead.
Did it have a linkage?
It had like a little bar with bushings and stuff that connected to the transmission. Because I
That's
changed the
annoying.
shifter. Yeah. It's still, when I changed, I put I think it was a Roush shifter with a Hurst handle on it, and it made a huge difference.
I was spoiled in my '03 because I just took the shifter out, bolted directly to the T56. That was
Those, yeah, there's nothing like the feeling of a shifter. It's bolted right to the transmission.
Yeah, it was just 4 bolts. Yanked it right out, threw a little silicone out to seal it.
Much notchier and
dropped
nice,
my Pro 50 shifter on it.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
when I learned how
always liked
important
the
Loctite is.
Steeda Triax is the one I always like to use. You know, they were just really notchy and nice.
Yeah, those are nice and smooth. It's
Pro
the
50 is another
3650s were
one.
just. I don't know why they put those on the Cobras. I remember Mike, I think, went through 2 of them. And he swapped those out. He had a lot of fun with that car. I think it was straight piped. It flew by my window one night when he was doing a roll race with somebody. I couldn't hear for about a minute. It was just, couldn't hear shit.
That's good times.
The long tube headers and just nothing.
Yeah. You know, and again, I don't know if it was a 3650. I'm pretty sure it was.
It could have been. I'm just going to assume it is.
It was one of those Tremec transmissions that Ford
Yeah,
used,
it's the
basically.
Tremec ones.
Probably wouldn't hold up to the things that are around nowadays, basically. No. Even though they would bolt right up to the Coyote, which is pretty cool.
It could be worse. You can get a world-class T5 like in the Fox bodies that's rated to like 200 horsepower.
Yeah, people are putting those behind slant sixes and stuff I've seen on a couple of pages, and it's good for that.
Yeah, for putting around.
Yeah.
Not for throwing gears.
Yeah, no.
Of course,
I mean,
that'll probably break before you rip the main caps out of the 5-liter block.
yeah. I mean, it also depends on what car it's in. If you put it in a big, heavy freaking New Edge versus a little Fox body or something, it's probably not going to last as long.
Same chassis, more or less.
Yeah,
Just
but
heavier crap in it.
wider. It's funny we talk about transmission strengths. That Jeep I'm putting together, I'm putting an AX15 5-speed in, and those are only rated 300 foot-pounds, which the 5.9 Magnum makes more than that. But there seems to be a lot of guys putting good power through them, and there's aftermarket support.
Yeah, but they're not drag racing them.
I mean, I guess they're weak when you shift them hard, basically.
Yeah.
The little shifter selector things
Yeah.
are weak. But and the gear selector, or the gear sets themselves are only supposed to handle like 350 horsepower or something. I found a website that sells upgraded gear sets, and that changes the ratio and everything. Because the box itself is loosely a Toyota R154 or whatever transmission they use in like Turbo Supras from the 80s or whatever. So
Oh, really?
a lot of the parts are interchangeable. So all the upgrade parts and stuff is pretty easy to get. It's expensive, but
Yeah, because nobody else buys it.
that's the thing about it. But eventually they'll become more popular because 5-speed swaps for those, V8 Mopars is either go to a T56 out of like a Viper or something, or
Which have gone up in price.
yeah, any of that stuff is expensive. You can go to the junkyard and get a freaking AX15 out of a Jeep Cherokee or a Dodge Dakota. They're the same transmission. And the ones in the Wranglers are very similar, but the hill shaft is different on the 4x4 ones.
Her and I actually have a love for the Magnum Dakotas.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why. I've
cool.
always wanted one of those.
Yeah, I remember when they were new at the dealer, man. They're great, especially the RTs, cool little pickups.
Is that what they were? RTs or sports or something?
You could, it's
It
different.
came in that really special dark blue color.
Yeah, it was an option on all of them, I think, pretty much. But the RT was like the top performance one, even though it was just a 5.9 Magnum in like a single cab or extended cab truck. I want a crew cab one myself, a crew cab Dodge Dakota with a 5.9 in it.
That'd be cool.
They're good little trucks. I like their dash isn't like the its big brother, the Ram. They don't shatter into a million pieces. And
Yeah.
you could get those with a manual transmission, the 5.2 or the 4.7, which that's its own freaking thing.
You don't seem too happy about it.
Yeah, no, those engines, single overhead cam. It's kind of when Chrysler and Mercedes were buddies, and they kind of loosely look like a Mercedes V8, but it's not. It's a Chrysler thing.
It's
But
it's a Mercedes
overheat 'em.
casting.
You overheat them once, and they have head problems and stuff. They use the same one in the Grand Cherokee WJs as well. They have all kinds of problems. They're not like the Magnum engines. They're way more simple, But they make good power. They almost make I guess they make what a 5.9 makes, but less torque because it's a smaller engine. But it's a single overhead cam. It's one of those things, they kind of use that for a long time too. It was like the little option versus the Hemi. It's the 4.7 or the 5.7 Hemi. 4.7 was that single overhead cam.
I think they'd save much more money just not offering a third option.
Yeah, it's just another sad thing too is that Dakota never came with a Hemi in it. They only had the 4.7 in the later years.
Oh, that's right.
But they bolt up the same.
I mean, the Durango's pretty cool, the new one with the 392 or a Hellcat, and it would be nice. But then when you're sitting on your driveway and you wake up in the morning, it's gone.
Yeah, that's the other
Ends
thing
up
about
at
it.
a
It seemed to get
takeover.
stolen a lot, all that newer Chrysler stuff.
I wonder what the insurance was. I wanted to do a quote on USAA just to see what it would be if I got like a 392 or maybe just a Hellcat one just to see what the rate was, because I know it's not because of the power in it. So I was going to look at the 392s, or you mean maybe just the base model ones, and just see how it's been affected by all the thefts.
Yeah. And I can't imagine that any of that would be good. Anytime an insurance company sees anything like that they're like, often stolen, dangerous to drive because they get crashed a lot, what type of people drive these things, plus your driving record potentially, all that stuff has a factor in that too, which I'm sure you have a good driving record because of the CDL and all that stuff. But, some of those things are just, it can't be cheap.
No.
And the guys that drive those things pay a lot for them in the first place. To pay a lot for, everything costs a lot of money. To get bad mileage, everything else,
Yeah.
So
it's
an expensive lifestyle. Think of all the things you could afford except for that,
a
you were to
lot.
buy
I
something else.
was looking at just the cheapest base model 392 Charger, and it was still like 60 grand.
Yeah.
Who the hell's going to pay 60 grand for that? I can go get a used C7 Z06 for 60 grand.
Right. Well, Corvettes have always been somewhat of a bargain as well, especially the last body style.
Right. So it's like, where's the incentive to buy these new cars and they're getting restricted?
That's the thing about it too. They don't seem to hold their value. People that are paying what they cost off the bat are losing their asses, man.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the
terrible.
way it's always been. You roll it off a lot and it loses whatever percent. But I think it's even worse nowadays because the used market, especially for something like the Hellcats, have been out since 2015. So if you were to
God, has
find
it been that long?
an earlier Hellcat, I'm sure you could find them in the 30s. They're relatively easy that have been kind of abused.
Only seen about 4 or 5 intersections.
You know, so, but still, where it counts, it has it. You know, if you know what to look for, I'm sure you could easily, and that's half of what they cost new, or less in some cases.
I was even looking for, because I remember you broke my heart a little bit when Chrysler stopped making the 300C, the SRT8 and all that. And I think you said it was 2 years ago they stopped?
It was something like that. Yeah, the last Chrysler 300, they had like a last hurrah for them, and it was they had put 392s in them again. But when that newer body style came out in like 2012 or 2013, they were putting 392 Hemis in them, and it was the SRT8 in those. And they only did that a couple of years, and they stopped doing it. And then the last hurrah, they started doing it again for that last year. And I've seen a couple of those driving around. They have a special grille, and I think they're like that, like a dark red or something. They're kind of special looking.
And the only thing they make now are Voyagers.
Yeah, they're Pacifica minivans. Yeah,
That's it. There's literally nothing else on that website. I looked twice.
yeah, it's pretty well. At least they're keeping the name alive with something. You know, who knows what they're going to do with it in the future? At least it's not like Plymouth that, you know, went away more than 20 years ago, which is crazy to think. Of course, when was the last time you saw a Plymouth on the road?
Never.
You know, it's been a while.
A very long time.
It's even rare to see one in the junkyard anymore. It feels like they've already been recycled. You know.
Oh, that's right.
But once in a while I see a neon, but it's usually a Dodge neon.
Yeah, I've seen a few SRT4s running around, which is kind of cool to see again. And there's a lot of YouTubers getting nostalgic vehicles again and going through them like, hey, you can get this bargain. Why buy this or buy this? And there was a short saying, you know, people forget about the Terminator Mustang because you guys talk about the blower whine and the SRTs. I'm like, here we go. And then I was like, here comes the snakebite video reference. And it's like, back in the day, there was this one video and it shows Snakebite 2 doing the burnout with the Kenny Bell 2.2. And people were, I saw some young kids down the road a few months back, and they must be 16, 17, and they're driving a 2000 Electrum Blue Civic Si. I was like, yeah, that's old to them now. That's 20-something years old.
That's crazy. That's like what an 80s car looked to us back in those days, you know.
I remember when the EG Civic, like the 92, 95 EG, EJs came out, and 3 of my neighbors on my cul-de-sac bought one, and they all lowered them immediately. And their one friend just didn't go along with it. He had a slam Tacoma on airbags when they started doing mini trucking stuff. I remember that. Now these kids are buying all the old imports and the old V8 cars from the 90s. Like the SN95 is going up. People are buying those.
It's about time. You know, I think the Fox body, you know, to me, those are always going to be iconic because it's an 80s looking thing. But, you know, all those 80s looking things are worth money nowadays. But SN95s is like a super 90s thing. You know, you think of like the Mach 3 futuristic looking prototype car that they had back in the 90s. It was literally upside down bathtub basically. That's how all those, you know, it's like a bar of soap, you know, looking car. And eventually they went to the new Edge in 99. It was more squared off. It's still the same car. You know, all the parts bolted and interchanged and stuff. They don't look right because the body lines and stuff are different.
It's just a refresh.
Yeah, the dash, the whole interior is basically the same, different colors. But say if you put door panels on one another, you'll be able to tell right away because there's charcoal and there's black, you know.
And they brought back the Cobra namesake again in the new Edge in 99.
Yeah.
And then got sued.
Well, not even that, too. It wasn't even the Cobra because they had Cobras 93 all the way up till 04. You know, they had 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, and then they skipped 2000, but they had Cobra R's in 2000.
Yeah.
You know,
because they advertised 300-something horsepower and everybody was dying them at 200-something, so they got sued, so they didn't have a 2000 model year.
Yeah. Well, there was also a lot of recalls and stuff on those. It was the first year they had independent rear suspension and all kinds of stuff in those cars. They had a bunch of cool shit. But they also had the cool taillights with the amber at the bottom of them.
That are now worth $1,500 for
Yeah,
repair.
exactly. They're worth lots of money. The S95s had those in Europe, too, where they're in the European markets. Those are super expensive. And they had folding mirrors, too. They were cast metal.
Yep.
I
remember you were a baller if you had an Integra folding mirrors you got from Japan.
Well, nowadays, the cool thing, if you keep in mind all these people buying up what you were talking about earlier, all these kids buying up all these cars, now all the cars we thought were cool are legal to import.
Yeah.
You know?
Everybody's getting
It's
their
past that
Skylines.
25
The
year rule.
R34 is finally coming in legally.
Which for me, I always thought it was cool. The the Dodge Rams I liked, the second gens were built in Mexico and were right by the border. So once in a while you see Mexican trucks around. But Yeah, they built a Dodge Ram Charger in the 90s. It was that second-gen body style, but it was like a two-door Tahoe kind of a thing.
And they brought the Ram Charger back. You want to talk about that?
Yeah, I don't really want to talk about that. But,
You don't want to talk about that? I like the tail lights.
I'm talking like the old Ram
Not
Chargers.
really. Come on, let's talk about the new one.
Yeah, but
You plug it in.
yeah, it's all the hype nowadays, apparently. But
Yeah, I thought Dodge, or it's not Dodge's fault primarily. It's Stellantis' fault. But I was hoping they wouldn't be stupid enough to do what Ford did with the Lightning and bring back this namesake of a pickup truck. And like, oh, look, it's a Lightning. Electricity, Lightning. Get it? 140 grand, please. But I was looking at the trucks today, and I didn't realize they had an electric pickup that they were bringing out. Because I saw Ram Charger, and I was like, oh, no shit. Maybe that one has the V8 in it. Click. First thing I see is a plug going into it. I was like, fuck you.
yeah, and that's the thing too. They literally
Ram Charger, get it?
I don't understand how people in these executive offices that get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to do their jobs see across the aisle at their buddies that are doing these things and literally getting shot in the foot, and they're like, "That looks like a good idea,"
Right?
And then they do it too.
And they're doing this. They're fucking it up.
So
They did the Mustang Mach-E. It seems to be they only lost $20-something billion. Let's do it with the Charger.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, the Mustang Mach-E, it's a whole
The
other
Lightning
thing.
is not selling. Let's do the Ram Charger. We can do it better. We've got to figure it out. You don't.
Well, that's the thing about it. It'd be great if it was just back in the day we had concept cars. It's like this could be the future.
I remember all the concept cars for some reason.
Now it seems like there's no concept cars.
really
It's
thick
like
black
this is what we're
trim.
doing, and it's like what we haven't told you if we like that or not, and we already told them we don't like what they're doing. So why are you doing the same thing?
Yeah.
You know how that's going to work out.
It's not.
So I don't know. Again, let's hope that they get their shit together. And
I mean, how long does it really take for them to get their shit together, though? Isn't the usual production plan and turnaround about 4 years?
And that's what they're saying too. They're saying that they're delaying the new all-electric Dodge Ram for another year, so it won't come out till 2026.
Maybe it just should.
But they want to have their plug-in Ram Charger as like their new thing or whatever. I was watching something about that.
If it was a Ram hybrid.
Yeah, and they've had the 4xe Jeeps and stuff running around quite a bit now, which is apparently it's like a bigger alternator that is like electric assisted thing.
Really?
So yeah, it's some weird freaking system that they use.
I haven't been paying attention
So
to Jeep.
on the
You're
Jeeps and
Jeep
stuff,
nerd,
it's
not
like
me.
it's the 4-cylinder that they use, but it's like electric assisted or something.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only Jeep I really ever care about was the Grand Cherokee SRT8.
Yeah, those are or the freaking one I always wanted too, the Trackhawk.
Yeah. Well, you still can get one until 2026.
Yeah.
It's just not called a Trackhawk anymore. Now it's the Hellcat Durango. But
I mean, those are way
Same
bigger
shit.
than the Jeep. They're heavier and. it's
Oh,
not
it
the same.
was
They
a
have
Jeep Trackhawk. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I completely screwed that up. Are they still
3
selling
rows of
those?
seats. I don't think so. I think they stopped a while back.
Because I know they got the Wagoneer, and they got everybody excited with the Wagoneer.
They did, and then they didn't sell. Same with
Go
the
figure.
same with the Grand Wagoneer, which is the the bigger version, basically the fancier version.
They're a little late to the Lincoln Navigator party.
Well, that's I can't imagine those are really selling great either. Honestly, I don't know.
No.
But you don't see too many of them around. I think I see more Escalades than anything in that
The
world.
Escalade
but,
V was pretty cool, but I think it was like 140.
Yeah, that's crazy what those things cost. I remember when they were $80,000 for like a
Everything
platinum
cool
one
is
back in the
over
day, and that was a lot,
$100,000. Everything cool is over 100 grand.
Yeah. Well, houses now are 500 grand. So
Tell me about it. We bought this for 225, 230 or something like that, and we're at 400 right now.
yeah.
My childhood house
It's
I
funny,
grew up
man.
in.
When you guys bought it and when everybody else bought it at your time, I was like, man, it's so much money. I don't think I'm like, I'm just going to, because back then we were all hoping that it was still going to, because a regular house around then was like $150,000 and it was everything went up to like 200, 250 and like, that's expensive. And then COVID happened and we're like, oh, right, well, maybe this is the time where everything kind of takes a big old shit. Everything doubled instead.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy though that's how it happened. But everything happens for a reason. I'm
My
happy.
parents bought the
I'm
house.
renting, but I'm happy where I'm at.
My parents bought the house in 1990 in California. It was like 250 or something like that. It was a 2-story house in Marietta, California, and now it's worth 700.
Yeah, it's just crazy. The crazy
I
thing
told
too
her, I'm
is
like,
like,
you should just be taking the money and run.
who is unless you already own a house or unless you're already in money, how are you affording that kind of a mortgage? Unless you're taking the equity you have and moving into something else, and
The down
paying a
payment would
bump
have to be
up.
substantial to make it reasonable.
Exactly. If you were to sell your house for cash and then go put half down on a house, then it doesn't matter as much.
Right.
But if you're starting from nothing,
No, good luck.
exactly.
What will the mortgage payment be on a $700,000 house?
I don't know, close to 10 grand or something. Probably it's got to be. I'm not a mathematician or anything.
I'm
but
not either. Like, it's just dependent on
It's
rates
just,
and how much you
it's
put
too
down.
much is what it is.
Yeah.
I have a 2-bed, 2-bath apartment with a garage included, and I pay like $1,600 a month, and I have a second garage for my business to keep my tools and everything in, and it's an extra $150, and it's like, you know, that even seems expensive. But to move into a house from there, I'm going to be doubling that probably to buy a house.
And you got those YouTubers out there in the middle of a forest building cabins with their bare hands.
I mean, for me, if I was a YouTuber like
I think
that,
they got something going.
I'd just go buy 10 acres and put a freaking, you know, barn dominium on it with lifts and, you know, the whole 10 yards, you know, or whatever. So, but
Yeah, I think we all would if we had that.
you know, or we could just buy 100 acres and put all of us in that one area, and you know,
Well, Trump says he wants more cities. So let's just go start a city and get a grant.
there you go. Make it car friendly, you know.
Yeah, exactly. We'll just call it Motor City. I'll base it off that old online game I used to be obsessed with.
And then close down the actual downtown area for once a year and have like legitimate street racing where they block it all off like Indy cars and stuff.
There's just going to be a main street.
Yeah.
And that'll be it. And then
Roadkill's always invited. Well,
residents will have a special tag that they can drive around in with the speed limit's always reasonable and prudent. If you're a visitor, you have to follow the speed limit.
And anytime somebody moves in and complains about the car noise or complains about whatever, like they did when they moved next to Speed World, they'd be like,
take them out in the desert and kill them.
no, well, or we could just be like,
Oh,
we remind you live in Motor City.
yeah. Go away.
Or when government comes and it's like, hey, where's all your guys' EVs? And be like, Motor City.
It's right here.
It's Motor City.
Yeah.
I mean, not electric Motor City. It's Engine City.
Yeah, it's
You know,
Engine City.
There's difference.
There's a miscommunication.
You know. So I don't know. It'd be cool to do that. Kind of keep
It
all
would
those
just
guys
get
around,
overrun
but-
by influencers. You'd see everybody on a corner like this.
Yeah, that'd be pretty annoying.
Yeah, then we just have to burn it all down.
The problem is they'd be doing that and they get hit by a car. So
Then it works. Speaking of YouTubers,
they get
actually,
views, and then we also are like, all right, you know.
get views. Speaking of YouTubers, TK's Garage, I think, was the one that was talking about it. Apparently, some influencers are getting slapped by the IRS for their giveaways.
Oh yeah,
They're not paying their taxes.
yeah, it feels bad.
Yeah. When you give something away, you can write it off. But the biggest misconception is that when people win these cars, and it's the offer is always, hey, you're going to win this whatever car and $20,000 cash, and they don't realize that cash is specifically to pay the taxes on the car you're getting for free, because they're going to charge you the tags, registration, and taxes based on the value of the car.
Right at the end of the year, it's like this was a you know, a prize fund, or this was like considered income, so you have to pay tax on that.
Yeah. And then these people that are pushing their merch and everything like that to get your entries, they're violating certain rules where some of them have not specifically said that it does not require a purchasable entry. So there's no purchase necessary. You're still under the laws. You're supposed to offer a way to enter without actually having to purchase anything. Some of them haven't. And the guys that have also pushed their merch really hard and made tons of money doing it haven't paid their taxes on it, so now they're getting in trouble. And the TK didn't mention specific names, and I tried to look around. I haven't found anything. So I'm hoping eventually somebody says something. I think I know which one of them is. I'm not sure, so I'm not going to speculate.
I mean, there's a lot of big channels that do that type of thing. Some of them are pretty smart because they came in from other places where they knew the rules. Other ones are like, oh, so I can help one of my fans get a lot of views, sell a lot of merch, and have a tax write-off for giving this away.
And
Perfect.
some of them gave them away to people they know.
Yeah, that's
So
sketchy.
I don't know if it's a legal
That's why I always
requirement,
thought about that
but
too.
a
And
lot of them,
I've entered some of those things before in the past
Yeah.
too, where
Same.
I'm like, hey, I wanted to buy some of your gear anyway, and I can enter to win something. Hell yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So I've done that stuff too in the past, and you know, I'm wearing one of Freiburger shirts right now, of course.
Of course.
But that was before
You
did
would've bought
any of
that
This
anyway.
has been, I mean, of course, 68 Charger's the
Of
best
course,
one.
yeah.
But
I like the 66. I'm such
I
a
like
fanboy.
66s and 7s too. 66 is cool because they had the full length console and 4 bucket seats and all
And
that
the
cool
luminescent
shit.
dash.
Yeah, and the big freaking cast chrome grill in the front with the flip up headlights.
That's
and
what I
big
liked
single
about the
tail
new
light.
one. Like, that looks like a new 66.
Yeah, I think that looks more, because to me, this is the golden era of Charger, 68 to 70, and that's the one everybody wants.
Right.
You know, the 66 and 7s, I remember when I was younger, I used to see those things for $1,500 and stuff all the time. But nowadays, they're worth money.
My first car that was gonna be my first car. My dad and I bought. It was a '67 El Camino, and it needed light work. It wasn't that bad a condition, and it was $2,700.
Yeah. Well, nowadays, too, one of these channels will build a 68 Charger or 69 Charger, 70 Charger, and give it away. And, you know, they give it away to somebody that wouldn't have been able to afford that car in the first place, probably.
Let alone they know how to maintain it.
Well, you know, that's something else. Whatever they do with it is what they do with it. But they get this thing and they're like, cool. And now the government's like, oh, you know, that $80,000 Charger you got,
Right.
You know,
And that's
where's
why
my
you get
piece?
and that's why you get your money. But a lot of these guys also, like I was saying, they give them away to people they know, and they actually I don't know if it was a legal requirement, but I heard Cletus mention it once, is that they're using a third party company to do the drawing, so they're not involved with it whatsoever, and then they have to supply the money for the taxes. So I don't know what all these fucking idiots are doing.
You know, and again,
You're making all this money and you're seriously not paying your taxes.
that's what it comes down to. You know, there's ways to make it to where you're being fair and just and everything. You just have to pay your fair share at the end of the day. You know, do what you're supposed to do. You know, a lot of them are
Yeah.
there for a reason. You know, and again, you know, when you have a big successful business and you pay whatever in taxes, as long as you're doing it the right way, you know, you've got to do things the right way.
Right.
You know,
It's not difficult. Make the shirt, charge the markup, sell the damn thing, pay the tax on it, and be done with it. Don't screw up something because you want to be greedy. There's
And then,
enough people that
yeah.
have tried and they've all gone to jail.
Imagine that too. You go to jail, you get in all kinds of trouble. From now on, they're looking at you with a magnifying glass to make sure you don't do it again. You know, so that's probably stressful.
Wesley Snipes went to jail for tax evasion.
Yeah.
People have done it. I mean, didn't Mike Tyson do the same shit? Or he didn't pay his taxes, then he had to pay a large settlement or something like that. Like you're not doing anything new. Remember the money scam that they did recently? They called it a money glitch on TikTok or something like that.
That doesn't sound good.
No, what they were doing was they were depositing fake checks. So when you're like put like a $10,000 check in like that, and a certain amount becomes available immediately,
Right.
and it was mainly Chase that was doing it, and you withdraw the money. It's like, oh, it's a money glitch, and people were doing it like that's check fraud, you fucking moron. that was done, I don't know, 40, 50 years ago.
That's terrible.
It's like people aren't learning. Like the new generation's like, yeah, great, you're buying all the new cars, but you're all some stupid motherfuckers.
Yeah, and I don't understand anybody that like thinks that they outsmarted, you know, like doing those types of things. They're gonna get what
And they're
they,
doing
you
it
know.
from ATMs. I'm like, everything's recorded. And
You
like
know,
it's not the old
you have to
days where
keep in
like catch
mind.
me if you can, where you scraping out the number because that number meant that check went to that certain branch. So you scraped that number and put a branch in like New York, and he was depositing in California, so it took that much longer to get there for them to realize it was fake.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen like that anymore.
You know, and I don't understand how they're like, oh, check it out, I outsmarted this system that's been around for this long and literally is like, you know, completely computerized, and it's the first thing that has technology to be able to catch people doing stupid stuff.
And
But
it's
I outsmarted
instantaneous.
them. It's like, no, you didn't, dude. Like
It's
you,
like
you
it's
realize
like the-
you're probably going to go away for a while now.
Yeah, it's like the dumbasses stealing Kias on video.
Yeah, I mean, imagine it's like the guy back when the Xbox 360 came out, and he stabbed somebody in the parking lot and got an Xbox 360. By the time that guy gets out, he can buy an Xbox 360 for like $40.
Yeah, could have just waited. So like there was a guy in Mesa recently that just walked around a Walmart spraying bug spray on all the produce. Did you see that?
No, that sounds terrible.
Yeah, it was in Mesa. It was like it's everywhere, but I didn't know it was so close. Tempe police got him, but he got bug spray and was like he shows the can and then he shows himself, and then he shows him spraying all the produce and all the food.
It's like back in the day when during COVID and stuff, people were licking ice cream and stuff. You know, they were taking the top off, licking ice cream, and putting it back and shit.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Like, why? What's wrong with our population, man?
And now it's all on videos. Like you literally just
See, those
recorded
people
your
deserve
crime.
to drive electric cars.
Right.
Let them do that. You know.
Like there's another video of a guy with a charger running from cops or something like that, and like towards the end of the video, you see him squeezing between two cars, and you see the camera shaking. You hear a smack. So he just recorded a hit and run.
It's crazy.
People are going after fame so hard. They're doing the dumbest shit. Like that one kid, whatever his name is, that had the McLaren driving in the rain and he wrecked it while he was holding the phone in his hand. He's been recorded the whole time. Insurance is not going to pay out in your McLaren.
I mean, nowadays though, you look at the younger generation, and we're not really talking as much about cars anymore. I realize, but
yeah, but
looking
it's,
at the
it's all Cartuber related. Just the stupid shit that they're doing.
younger generations. Like when I was a kid, kids were like, "I want to be an astronaut. I want to be something, this and that." Nowadays, kids are like, "I want to be an influencer."
I want to have an OnlyFans.
Yeah, well, goddamn, that's terrible. But anyways, you know, it's literally like I just want to be internet famous, and to me, I never really ever wanted to be famous in general. I like to live my regular life. You know, I like to still be able to go to the grocery store and do the things I like to do. So hopefully this is, you know.
Well, other people are trying to do the durability testing now that Whistling Diesel does.
Yeah, and, you know, it's cool when the first person, maybe the first two people do it, and they're way out in the middle of nowhere.
Good production.
And yeah, it's actually a good video. But then when people see that, it's like, jackass, don't try this at home. You know, but we were all a bunch of jackasses when we were kids.
I still have 8mm of us doing shopping carts into bushes because of CKY.
Yeah, you know, I guess that makes sense. It's just gotten worse, pretty much.
And of course, Fast and Furious is the biggest example once that came out. You walk out of the theater, people are doing burnouts and racing light to light. When we left Hot Import Nights, people are literally flagging races in downtown LA at the convention center, doing some dig races in the middle of the street. There's no cops around for like an hour. It's that influence.
To me, like the Fast and Furious movies stopped being good after like maybe Tokyo Drift. After that, it all started out robbing banks and everything else.
Going to space.
Yeah, pretty much, man. It's like, you know.
Allegedly, the next one's supposed to be going back to roots.
Imagine that though. People are like, oh, people are trying to do this stuff. How about we just make it more and more crazy every time? So people do more and more crazy shit every time.
Right.
It's like they're out there with their Chargers pulling bank vaults down the streets. You know.
I think it was Fast 8 or Fast 9 or whatever it was. And the opening 10 or 15 minutes, and right at the end, the car jumps off the cliff, and the aircraft grabs it, and it takes off. We just looked at each other, sitting right here looking at the movie, and I just hit end and just got out of the video, and I rented it, and that's money I'll never see again.
Yeah,
but we never watched the rest of it. I just thought it was stupid.
I think a lot of days with newer movies and stuff, this is probably still an old man rant, but I feel like a lot of the movies now, it's like you watch it once, and you're like, I watched it, and you never watched it again.
Mm-hmm. Versus like something like Terminator 2, which I've seen about 150 times.
That's because it was made by James Cameron.
And he's the GOAT.
That guy is the dude. But,
and that movie still plays.
You know, and that's the thing. They don't make movies that really, like, it's pretty rare that you see one that lasts the test of time anymore. It's just like the cars are building.
Right.
Are they really going to last the test of time? Or is it just like excitement? You watch it once, you never want to see it again. You're like, I've already been there, seen that.
Well, you see what cars, like really old muscle cars, look like in the junkyard now. The interior is completely rotted onto the floor, and the floor.
Well, we're lucky here that we even have a floor,
right?
You know, where we live. Back east, those cars were gone 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. You know, so, but here, yeah, you know, but even then, you see a old rusted hunk that's still has floors, and the interior's gone, and you know it's got a little bit of rust in the lower quarters, maybe, and the motor's locked up, and it's been locked up because there's been no carburetor on it, and the hood's been up, and it's freaking full of mud and everything else.
Unless you're really lucky to find one of those literal barn finds where the cars are all packed inside.
Yeah, the worst thing it's got on it's like dust,
rats
and
chewing on it.
Yeah, a little bit of rats and maybe some chicken poop or something. But but even then, when you see one in the worst condition, there's a guy that was at I think Steve Mignante out in Texas or something. There was a GTO that was all shot up at this guy's property because he's a Mopar guy, and he had a big hoard for a long time, and it was this GTO that was all shot to bits, and they had an auction and sold off all the guy's cars. And that GTO was bought by a YouTube guy, and he got it running and driving, and it's
just
like
full of bullet holes.
It's called the Holy Goat or something. I'm sure you could look it up, but it was like the biggest pile of a GTO that you could ever think of, pretty much. And he got it up and running. It was on his YouTube channel, and so I think that like perfectly describes any of us older car enthusiasts who see something rusted out like that, and you kind of
want to save it.
Right away, you're like, you don't think about what it's going to cost. You're just like, I could probably get that thing going. A little bit of spit shine here, maybe some new tires.
That is a dream of a lot of us, is just to be able to go to a field like, you're going to survive.
Yeah. The problem is you end up like me where you've got 4 of them, and you're like, if I had one, I could probably have something pretty decent, but now this one needs that, and this one needs that over there, and that one needs this, and then you're like, well.
If that was just your job, you could do it.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know, man. I think when things get better financially, because it always has its dips and weaves and stuff. So when you're at the top, being able to make sure you're doing the right thing and prepare for the down, and that's the thing. Right now, it feels like we're in a down, and it almost feels like it's bottomless, But
oh yeah, I know about that.
So I've got.
I'm getting phone calls from places I don't want to get phone calls from. So
yeah, it's horrible, man. I'm paying credit card bills today, just the minimums and stuff, and it feels bad. You know? So it's just a matter of. Hopefully things start moving forward for everybody, and we're able to have more money and things cost less at the end of the day. And that way we can do our hobby.
February 1st, by February 1st, after January 2nd and 20th, I just want to see what kind of auto news comes out.
Yeah.
Because there was I should have written it down, but somebody was invited to speak to Trump at Mar-a-Lago. One of the CEOs. Did you by chance hear that?
I've heard that he's been
I think it
meeting
was
with a lot of people,
Stellantis.
but
I think it.
I hope so, because they
I
need
can
the
always
most
edit
help, it
around.
feels like. They keep making the worst decisions.
I can always edit around this. Let's see. I swear it was one of the automakers. Ford and GM contributed to Trump's inauguration. I bet they did.
Probably because they're getting strangled and neutered by this whole EV mandate.
Yeah, Ford General Motors will donate cars and cash to Trump inauguration. Ford and Trump favor breakout wallets. It's just them. But I don't know who. I swear it was. I saw an article that said the Stellantis CEO was invited to Mar-a-Lago. Probably to say stop screwing around, get your shit together.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad. It's when you have a huge conglomerate like that owns all those different automakers and they can't figure out a couple of them.
You know, I don't know how they're doing worldwide. I know that, again, it's mostly European conglomerate, so, you know, understanding how the American market works is completely different to what we want versus what they want.
Correct.
So it's just a matter of having somebody that's from here and actually knows what's going on and putting them in charge of this part of it. And when they say, like, hey, this is what we need over here, not saying no, you know, basically going,
Right.
you know, maybe asking why, it'd be the farthest you go, like, why do you need that? And then they show, you're like, hey, because this is what we want. Okay, you know.
Well, hopefully
having some communication like that, not saying like, this is how it's going to be worldwide, and us Americans are like, we don't want this European crap. Why are we taking,
Well,
you know,
having
Fiats and
Tim
putting
Kuniskis
freaking
back in charge of
Chrysler
Ram is the
logos on
first
them?
good move that they made. Now, hopefully, they just let him do the rest of it and just let him do his fucking job.
Yeah.
Because the way they're going out, I'm not interested in anything they got. I'm
That's
not
the
really
problem.
interested in anything anybody's got.
That's how I felt for the last few years, unfortunately. First of all, it's too expensive, so I wouldn't really be
Right.
able to do it anyways. But if I was to have the money, maybe the Jeep Gladiator, because my cousin has one, my brother has one. You know, it'd be kind of cool to have one too, and we could all have Gladiators. But, you know, but even then, they don't really have any real exciting engine options. The best thing they have is that Pentastar V6 that's been out for 10 years. And, you know, when that came out too, we're like, cool, sounds just like a minivan, just like they have since the JK came out. But, of course, coming from a diehard Jeep guy, straight six or
Right.
nothing. And I'm
Even
not talking
like a base model Ford GT Mustang is
Yeah.
$60,000.
Yeah, I'm not talking the new turbo straight six. I'm talking like 4-liter cast iron freaking tractor, basically.
Right.
But something that has longevity to it. Pentastar is not a bad engine, honestly. They get decent mileage. They have almost 300 horsepower. It's decent for what it is. But
Yeah, if you want to go eat
better
groceries.
than the 3.8 or the 3.7 that they made for a while. Those are both terrible. But
I'll have to see what happens in January. Because
Yeah.
I'm really curious to see what happens.
once I start,
It's going to take a while for that ripple to go out.
yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that they're still announcing things now, knowing that it's probably going to change. Like, that's what's surprising to me.
Because they're that committed. Like I said, it comes back to that 4-year plan.
Unless, yeah, exactly. This was made prior, and they're like, these are when we're going to announce these things. Before the whole election was over, or before they even considered. That's what bothers me, too, though. They literally see what's happening, and they don't go, I mean, if it goes this direction, we'll do that. If it goes this direction, we'll do this. Instead, they
think
go,
it's
we're
just
doing this regardless.
How much they invested and how much
know?
they expect to make back.
Well,
And
I
they're
mean,
already so deep in it, they can't just stop because you have to change all that tooling and all the orders, all these different manufacturers that
it's
make all your shit.
millions and millions of dollars, I'm sure, to do all
At
that.
least the Ford CEO said one smart thing this entire time, and he said he was going to eliminate all the other companies that make all their computers and their modules, because like even the GT500, the DCT transmission, you can't access it. Nobody has access. Not even Ford really has access.
Mm-hmm.
So they have they had Bosch modules for something else. And I think they had like 3 to 4 different companies that make the modules in their cars, and they don't really talk to each other. They're all in their different languages. They just interact. And he got tired of it, and he said they're just going to start making one brand of modules for everything and be done with it. So at least that's one smart thing he's done.
I mean, yes and no. If you have issues with that one supplier, then you have no modules.
Right.
You know, so that sucks.
Yeah.
But I mean,
But
if
when the
anybody
Tremec
knows what
transmission has one thing, your engine has another,
Yeah.
then the body control module
so if
is
you're
different.
waiting on one manufacturer for one thing, but everybody else is ready, that
Right.
sucks.
And they don't give you full access to it.
Versus one making everything, but if that one's not making anything, then you're screwed either way. So
Correct.
We'll see how that works for them. But
Tunability is still shot anyways. People are still trying to unlock the the Ford modules. The only ones that really have any kind of access is Whipple and somebody else, and that's just because they're in tight with Ford.
You can basically get them installed at the dealer and stuff.
Yeah, and I didn't know that the Dodge ones you actually had to buy a broken ECM to be able to tune it. I thought it was actually tunable.
Oh.
But I guess when you order a tuner or flash tune, you have to order the computer with it and turn in yours as a core. So they have to unlock them. I don't know. But I really
That
hope...
stuff's all too new for me, honestly. I don't know anything about that stuff.
Yeah, it's annoying. There's actually, even with the BMWs, it was funny. The BMWs, there's a guy in Russia that unlocks them. So you have to send your computer to Russia to unlock them. I don't know if it's changed since then, but that's how it started. There's like one guy that knew how to break into them and make them tunable, and you had to send it off to him.
Wow.
And then he would send it back to you, and then he would send you tune renditions or somebody else that he knew would have access to it. But he was the only person that knew how to do it at the time. So if anything, if we start getting more V8s and stuff, tunability is still going to be highly restricted just because of the pressure from the EPA.
And that's, at the end of the day...
Like we're the issue.
Right. You know, and it's... Honestly, it just has to... We have to find a happy medium somewhere. And, you know, it's like... The thing that has the least amount of stress on the consumer is what we should be focusing on at the end of the day.
Just make a car that starts and drives.
Let's make something that's, you know, that's not forcing us into a certain direction, basically, that hurts everybody, you know, and giving us choices, you know.
Just give me a base model Mustang or roll up windows and a V8 and it charge me $35,000 for it.
And a 6-speed with a nice, easy to push clutch.
Right.
You know? No cable clutches.
No, we'll see what happens.
Don't go back to the Fox body days or anything like that.
No, that's not going to happen. If they ever brought back the Fox body, I'd be really fearful on what would happen with it.
Yeah, well, I don't think they can build anything that small anyways. The whole EPA regulations is the smaller you build it, the more emissions that it has to be able to filter out, basically. So that's why everything is so big nowadays. They're, the way that the emissions, you know, graph goes, the bigger the vehicle, the less the emission standards are. That's why everything is so big here.
Yep.
They don't make small good cars anymore because
it's
too hard to get a
just
small
put
car.
7 3s in the Mustang.
Yeah. Well,
that'll fix it. Well, don't worry. The gas particulate filters, like I said last time, are covered, so don't worry. We'll all be saved.
Yeah. That'll save the world for
Not
sure.
a bunch of horse shit.
We'll see how it works, man. I like to... It sucks because it feels like it's hard to look forward to the future, but I think now we should really be feeling good about how things are going to go now that we actually have people that are going into office that actually feel like they might make a good change and get rid of some of that bloat that's causing issues for everybody else.
Hopefully.
Potentially. You know, and again, not trying to get political or anything like that, but I think the pendulum has swung too far one direction and needs to kind of center out again a little bit more.
Yep.
And I think that, you know, hopefully the new administration kind of pushes things back towards the middle. For where regular people, I think most regular people are probably more centered, honestly, politically.
Where it doesn't take two separate incomes to be able to afford a car.
Well, just a car, yeah, no shit. And we have, 30-year-olds still have to live with their parents even when they have college degrees and are making good money and stuff because rent and everything else is just crazy.
Yep. Hopefully so. We'll check back in a week and see what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.